Running out of gas was supposed to be the worst part of the night. It wasn't. Because a few minutes later, something appeared out of the darkness. Not a car. Not a police officer. A woman. Standing completely still. Watching. And before sunrise, the musician would abandon their own car, just to stay alive. It happened after a small concert. The roads were empty. The music was over. The drive home should have taken less than 2 hours. The musician had driven this highway many times before. Nothing ever happened here. Until that night. The fuel light came on. No problem, they thought. There has to be a gas station soon. But mile after mile, nothing. No lights. No buildings. No houses. Only endless road, and black forest on both sides. Then, the engine coughed. Once. Twice. And died. The car rolled to a stop. Silence. Complete silence. The phone had almost no signal. 1 bar. Then none. The musician tried calling for help. Call failed. Again. Call failed. The battery was already below 10%. Now they had 2 problems. No gas. And no way to call anyone. They stepped outside. The cold night air felt strange. Not because of the weather, because everything was too quiet. No insects. No birds. Not even the wind. It felt like the entire world had stopped breathing. Then, they noticed someone. Far down the road. A woman. Wearing a dark hood. Standing perfectly still. At first, the musician felt relieved. Finally. Another person. They waved. Hey. No response. The woman didn't wave back. She didn't speak. She didn't move. She just stared. A strange feeling settled in. The musician climbed back inside the car. Locked every door. A minute passed. Then another. When they looked again, the woman was closer. Much closer, but they had never seen her walk. Their hearts started racing. How had she moved so far, without making a sound? Again, she stopped. Again, she stared. Then, very slowly, she started walking. 1 slow step. Then another. Never taking her eyes off the car. The musician grabbed the phone again. Still no signal. The battery dropped to 5%. Outside, the woman kept coming. Slow. Patient. Like she knew there was nowhere to run. She finally reached the car. She stood beside the driver's window. Her face was hidden beneath the hood. The musician couldn't even tell how old she was. Then, she gently tapped the glass. Once. Twice. 3 times. Tap. 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 The musician refused to look directly at her. Maybe she'd leave. Instead, the tapping became louder. Tap. 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 Then suddenly, bang. Her fist slammed against the window. Again. Bang. Again. Bang. The entire car shook. The musician screamed. The doors stayed locked. The woman never said a single word. She only kept hitting the window. Harder. 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 Then, without warning, she stopped. Complete silence. The musician slowly looked up. She was gone. Not walking away. Gone. There was nowhere she could have disappeared. The road stretched for miles. No trees close enough. No buildings. Nothing. It was impossible. Then, a loud bang exploded from the passenger side. The woman was there. standing inches from the glass. As if she had teleported around the car. The musician nearly dropped the phone. The battery died. The screen went black. Now, they were completely alone. The banging became violent. The windows shook. The hooded woman leaned closer. Still, she never spoke. Not one word. Only breathing. Slow, heavy breathing. Then, she smiled. A smile so unnatural, it didn't look human. The musician made a decision. Staying in the car meant waiting. Waiting meant dying. They unlocked the door, took one deep breath, and ran. Branches scraped their arms. Loose rocks nearly made them fall. Behind them, they heard footsteps. Slow at first. Then faster. They didn't dare look back. Every second felt like an hour. The only thing that mattered was reaching somewhere with lights. Anywhere. After what felt like forever, a small town appeared in the distance. Street lights. Gas station. People. The musician sprinted toward them. Finally, they were safe. Or so they thought. Police returned to the abandoned car before sunrise. The vehicle was still there. Locked. Exactly where it had been left. But something didn't make sense. There were muddy handprints covering every window. Dozens of them. Not one. Not two. Dozens. As if, more than one person, had surrounded the car that night. The woman may never have been alone. And to this day, no one knows who she was. Or why she waited, on an empty road, for the next driver to run out of gas. If you ever hear someone screaming for help, deep inside the woods, think twice before you run toward the sound. Because sometimes, the victim isn't the one in danger. You are. It happened on a quiet Sunday afternoon. A young couple decided to go hiking. The weather was perfect. The trail was almost empty. Birds were singing. Sunlight slipped through the trees. It felt like the safest place in the world. Until, a scream shattered the silence. "Help me!" It echoed through the forest. Loud. Desperate. Terrified. The couple froze. They looked at each other. Someone needed help. At least, that's what they believed. The man shouted back. "Where are you?" No answer. Then, another scream. Closer this time. "Please." The woman's face turned pale. They rushed toward the sound. Branches snapped beneath their feet. The forest grew thicker. Darker. The screams continued. Always close enough to hear, but never close enough to find. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Still, no person. No footprints. Nothing. The woman stopped. Something felt wrong. The screams hadn't changed. Not louder. Not quieter. Almost, like they weren't moving at all. As if the sound itself was leading them deeper into the woods. The man pulled out his phone. No signal. Just one empty bar. Then, the screaming suddenly stopped. Complete silence. Even the birds were gone. The forest felt dead. That's when they noticed something on the ground. A backpack. Old. Covered in dirt. It hadn't been there before. Or, had they simply missed it? The zipper was half open. Inside, there was a phone charger. A water bottle. A flashlight with dead batteries. And one folded piece of paper. The handwriting was shaky. It simply read, "If you found this, don't keep looking." The couple stared at each other. Neither of them spoke. Then, a twig snapped behind them. They spun around. Nobody. Only trees. The woman whispered, "We need to leave." The man agreed. They started walking back. Fast. But after only a few minutes, they realized something horrifying. The trail was gone. Every direction looked exactly the same. They were lost. Panic set in. The sun was dropping. The woods were getting darker. Then, the scream returned. This time, right behind them. They turned instantly. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The sound felt so close, it was almost inside their ears. The woman started crying. The man grabbed her hand. Run. They didn't care where they were going anymore. They just ran. Branches scratched their faces. Roots grabbed their feet. Every few seconds, another scream echoed behind them. Always the same voice. Always begging for help. But never showing itself. After what felt like forever, they finally reached the parking lot. Both of them collapsed beside their car. The scream stopped. Just like that. As if, whatever had been following them, couldn't leave the forest. They immediately called the police. Search teams arrived before sunset. The officers searched the entire area. They found the backpack. Exactly where the couple described. But nothing else. No missing hiker. No injured person. No footprints. No campsite. No evidence that anyone had ever screamed. The backpack was never claimed. Police couldn't identify its owner. The note led nowhere. No fingerprints. No DNA. Nothing. It was as if someone wanted the backpack to be found, but never wanted to be found themselves. Weeks later, the couple returned with investigators. Not because they wanted answers. Because they wanted proof they hadn't imagined it. One officer quietly admitted something. This wasn't the first report. Other hikers had described hearing the exact same screams. Different years. Different seasons. Same voice. Same desperate cries for help. And every single time, no one was ever found. To this day, no one knows who was screaming. Or if anyone was screaming at all. But if you ever find yourself deep inside a silent forest, and someone cries out for help, remember one terrifying question. Are you running toward a victim, or walking into someone's trap?